Good morning to Deo Victoria family, our English community. I decided this morning to do an Afrikaans last devotion of the year and also do an English one for those of you that didn't pick up on the Afrikaans one or doesn't understand Afrikaans. It is the last day of 2020. What a year it's been. Every week had its own challenges, had its own fears, had its own hopes and dreams. And of these 52 weeks, I think it's been a really up and down roller coaster for all of us. I don't know about you, but you know what? 2020 has become like this person that we would say. It's not a year, it's like a person that we don't know how to approach because we don't know what the mood is going to be. You don't know if they're going to be happy or if they're going to be sad, if they're going to hurt you or if they're going to love you. 2020 has become this person figure that we would speak about even. And I think it creates its own fears of 2021. You know, I just realized that at the end of this year, I don't want to do New Year resolutions. I don't want to have a list of things to do in 2021. And just because of the fact that 2020 has shown me that there is no way that I can truly know what's going to happen in 2021. Yes, we do need to plan, and yes, we've already planned a few things for the year, like our missions conference that's coming up from the 24th, and having Dr. Isaac Berger at the end of January with us. And there's a few things that we have planned, but we don't know if it's going to happen and if it's going to work out. And in the last few weeks, I've really been thinking about this moment of the end of 2020 and what we should take into 2021. You know, when there is a transition or when there's a new season ahead, you don't always know how it looks, but there's a few things that we can do. A few months ago, I did a devotion that I called Pack Your Bags of Pak Jou Sak. And in that devotion, I specifically spoke about this part in the Bible where Joshua was leading the people of Israel into the promised land. And he took over and God said to him, "Be courageous, Joshua, and do not fear. No, I'm with you. And you're going to take the promised land." And then Joshua gives an order to his leaders. And he says to his leaders the following in Joshua 1 verse 10. Joshua commanded the officers of Israel, "Go through the camp and tell the people to get their provisions ready. In 3 days you will cross the Jordan River and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you." Joshua says, "Look guys, we're going to go into the promised land. And I've spoken to God. We've got a plan. We're going to go this way. We don't know everything, but we're going to do this. But you've got one job. And this is your job. Pack your bags. Make sure that whatever you want to take with into the next season, that you pack your bag for that. Make sure that you take responsibility of what you take with you." And I can just imagine how much chaos it would have been. I think that's why he most probably gave them 3 days to make up their mind about what to leave in the desert and what to take with them into the promised land. Because there's no turning back. When we're through the river, when we're in the promised land, there's no ways that you can take anything else. Again, from the other side, you've got to make sure what you have in your bag. And I know that we are not there where Israel was. I know that it's very extreme It's like those icebreakers that they do in small groups and even at leader camps. They would ask you, okay, if you can take 3 things, or let's say save any 3 things when your house is burning down, what would you take with you? You know, those kind of icebreakers. If you were stranded on an island, what 3 items would you want with you? And it's so interesting. It says something, those items that you choose says something about your values in your life. It says something about the way you think about life, the way you think about the future even. And I can imagine that this moment was just like it. It was like Joshua was saying, guys, pick a few things. Get yourselves ready. Get everything ready that you want to take into the promised land. And we're going to go in 3 days. And I know we are not there. I know 2021, especially when it comes to us as human beings, we can sometimes take things, you know, it's just another day tomorrow. And so we're not walking through the Jordan River in a physical sense. But I do think that we should leave a few things behind and rather focus on what we can take into 2021. And this is the most important message that I have for you as a Deo Victoria family today. It is not about planning your future, but it is about what you're taking with into your future. That is so important. And I've got 3 things to share with you. I know there might be many other things in the Bible that you would read and that you would consider to take with you, but there's 3 things that I think is very important for you to take with you, to leave a lot of other things behind, but to take these things with you. The first thing is your attitude, an attitude of joy. We must have a different attitude, and an attitude of joy, an attitude that joy. Let me put it this way: joy is a choice. See, happiness is determined by what happens in your life, but joy is a choice. We see it in the life of Paul. He was persecuted by governments. He was beaten by governments. He was thrown in prison. He was punished. He was sweared at. So many things happened with him, and still he wrote a lot of the New Testament books of the Bible that we find hope in. He wrote a lot of those books in the prison. And Paul writes in Philippians 4 verse 4, and he says these words. He says, rejoice. And I say again, rejoice. Now, when Paul says this, he is not making a suggestion. He is not asking you if you are rejoicing. He is commanding you. He sets it up as a command. And I think for us, as followers of Jesus Christ, we've got to know that joy is a choice. They can take my clothes, they can take whatever they think about my future, they can take everything around me. And with that, I don't imply anybody. I'm just saying the enemy can try to steal anything. But the one thing that he cannot take and can never be taken from me is my attitude. My internal joy. It doesn't matter if I'm in a prison or in a palace. It doesn't matter if I'm at my lowest point in my physical body or if I'm at my healthiest point in my physical body. It doesn't matter if everything around me falls apart. What is inside of me, that joy is a choice. We've got to make choices of joy. You've got to pack that into your bag. We don't know the future, but we can say, I choose joy. The second thing that I think that we can do is, I want to say what you've got to pack in is your deeds towards one another. And I want to say here, I think we can lay on our hands on people more often. Now, I know in the Corona story, we're not allowed to physically lay hands on people, but But this is exactly that I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of weeks. I read a book by Bob Goff that said after a friend of his that was a pastor found out that his 8-year-old son had leukemia, Bob, while ministering in his church, decided to not lay hands on his friend, but asked about 6 very strong guys to lift his friend up and allow his friend to crowd serve over the thousands of people, where people would just pass him on hand for hand for hand. And you know what? I've always watched crowd surfing, and I've always thought that would be so nice to actually jump from a stage into people's hands and let them crowd serve you. It's only the hands of people that are carrying you straight to the back. And this is the thing that I realized in the last couple of weeks, is in my mind, when the Bible says that we should lay hands on others, I've also had this picture, always had this picture of laying my hands from the top onto someone. There's nothing wrong with it, and I think we should do it. But just through this crowd surfing visual, it is like the Holy Spirit started speaking to me and saying, maybe laying on of hands is not, maybe the laying on of hands is not up-downwards action, but maybe laying on of hands is an upward action. It is where we as family of God actually lifts one another up to the throne of the Father, where we lift one another up. Maybe the greatest story of laying on of hands is what happened with Jesus when 4 friends laid hands on their friend that couldn't walk, the paralyzed man, by putting their hands on him and picking him up and lowering him through the roof in front of the feet of Jesus. And I think in 2021, in our bags, what we take with us for 2021 is the laying on of hands, but in an open palm way, not in a downward way by putting our hands on people like that alone, but really lifting one another up and being there for one another. And then the third thing that I think that you can definitely also put in your bag. Maybe you can find a lot of other things, but this is the last thing that I want to mention on today, is that you can put in your bag the invitation. See, there's an invitation for all of us. An invitation from the Father for the bridal feast of eternity. There's the invitation for others to become a part of this family. And I believe that 2021 is going to be a year of invitation. It's going to be a year of more and more and more invitations, of evangelism, of evangelizing our communities and really inviting people to become followers of Jesus Christ. I want to ask you, put that into your bag. Don't just go into 2021 not knowing what disasters might strike, not knowing what hopelessness there might be, and going into that with a lot of people hurting around you, and you don't have the invitation with you. You've got to invite. You've got to invite your neighbor to the cross of Jesus. You've got to invite your worker. You've got to invite the person that drives next to you, or the person that sits in the restaurant next to you. We have got to invite more than ever. I believe 2021 is going to be a year of an explosion of salvation all across the world, but it will take us to take the invitation. Jesus promised us His Spirit will give us power. It is not a matter of a lack of power. It is a matter of us lacking the discipline of having that invite in timely times and in every single opportunity that we have. Now I want to say, it's unsure 2021, but this you can pack in your bag. I want to thank all of you for being a part of the Deo Victoria family in the last year. I want to thank you for every contribution, and I want to thank you for just being the hands and feet of Jesus wherever you went. May 2021 be a year full of joy, be a year full of laying on of hands in carrying one another, and may it be a year full of opportunities to invite people to the best bridal ceremony ever in creation. May you have a fantastic day with your family. And we don't see you on Sunday, but we will have our online sermons ready and available. Afrikaans again be at 8:30, and the English will be at 9:45 or 10. Sorry. God bless.